Hey y'all. So I just finished wiring up all my accessories. 2 bilges, 1 blower, nav lights, and geez, I cannot think these days. My trim. So I'll show you what all that looks like. Everything's sort of loose and stuff. Still need to clean it up. It's just tied up so it's neat and tidy, but this is battery switch location. Right now it's off. On. I have power up here. Right now I have bilge or blower. Bilge, and nav lights. I have them right through there. Remember, they're little 1-inch nav lights, and this way I can actually see if they are running. And these are also automatic bilges, so if the float lifts up, they are already wired in, and you can test them. Just spin the thing as if the float's lifting. They are 1,100 gallons an hour, times 2, cut out of the stringers so they sit as far back and as center as possible. And I also put in one-way check valves underneath, just so that all the water that pumps out doesn't just fall back in. There's the trim system mounted through the bulkhead. And now, underneath, remember, I am not an electrician whatsoever, but I think I do a decent job. So there is a fuse box. This also has a panel that goes over top of it. So what we do is for people that don't know, it goes battery, right? Battery to your switch, on-off switch, then to the fuse box. You have a positive. This is your main power in, positive, main negative in, and then you run your power off of that to the switch. Okay. These come all pre-wired, but I have isolated them. I have cut off because all these reds just jump together, and then you send your signal to whatever component you're running. But I decided to hack all those up and isolate each one so that each one is running off of its own fuse. And yeah, so battery, switch to the power, and then power out to your switches, and then each switch goes to all your components. Easy peasy, right? So also the toggle switch for the trim down, trim up. I'll go all the way down, show you what that looks like. Might be a little dark under here, but there is the cable. I will go hit it, and trimming up means it will be pulling in, lifting the bumper up. Totally works. Totally. And it was cheap too. Those are the nav lights. Front and side. I like them. I like them a lot. And that is it for today. Next up, motor. Plop in. I'm not going to bolt it down. I'm just going to get it in and start splicing that CB harness. So stay tuned for that one. I'll let you know how she goes as we go. All right. Cheers. What's up, YouTube? It has been a minute since I've been able to work on this boat, but I've just thrown in the Sea-Doo harness, ran up to the dash. It's everything that it needs to and more than actually needs to come out there. This harness is actually long enough to come all the way from my fuse panel all the way up plus some. So this section here will be, I'm sort of going to loop it up and stuff it behind the battery. And then the only section I have to extend is my fuel cell. And because, yeah, normally when you're running the Sea-Doo, it's like right in front of your steering, like you're basically sitting on the fuel cell, so it's way up there. I'm gonna run that back to this corner. And then the only ones I have to extend are my grounds, my 3 grounds for the front of the block, and this harness for the ECU. And this guy, I believe, yeah, this guy comes right here. And then this one is for an OTIS sensor, I believe, which let you in on another little secret of mine. Not that I'm the best at this, but this is what I like to do. Instead of making all of your cuts directly in line, right like this, then you're gonna have all of these guys all in the same spot. And then you're gonna, like, to get that through, say, some looming and stuff, it's gonna be really fat, like right there, right? So what you can do is stagger each cut. Start here, the next one there, the next one there, the next one there, the next one there, the next one there. Sort of stagger them all so that they're all sort of in line with each other, and then you don't have a big bulge all in one spot. It'll be just sort of, you know, a little bit fatter in this area instead of being all the way down in one spot. And also this 2 sets of wires right here has a specific twist. So when you lengthen it, make sure that you twist those 2 wires together the way that they are done here. All right. Pro tips for building your own boat. All right. Thinking to myself, because my harness is just going to be running across here and up, I'm not sure if I really like that idea, just flopping around like that for that long. So I think I might build like a little tray, like a cable tray, just right here. It'll be straight in line with the battery where it comes down, and then straight in line, or actually I'll run it and through this loop or whatever, and then it'll go up. So that's what I'm gonna do. And while I won't record this for a little bit until I get going, but yeah, let's have a quick break. Okay, so brilliant idea. Yank this out of the scrap bin, and I'm going to slice it. Slice the whole top off. It's already got some feet for me. I can build off of those. Actually, I might just bend them or weld the little base plate, and that way it can be removable. I can just screw it down to my stringer. Bang, 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 bang. And that will carry my wiring harness right on the top. I can zap strap around it. Yeah, let's get going on this guy, right? Perfect. Recycle, reuse for good purposes. All right, let's do this. Aluminum's pretty dirty. I should have actually cleaned it first. I have a special aluminum cleaner, or you can use things like brake clean or whatever. Just make sure there's nothing on it when you go to strike an arc. It can produce ozone gas, which is also equivalent to mustard gas. So you don't want to be breathing that shit in. So after you clean it, you can wire wheel it again. Just make sure all that cleaning agent is removed. Not bad, but not the best. I'm not going to bother welding the inside. Let's go see how she fits. It's going to go something like this, straight across here, and it's going to shoot up right into that little plastic catch there. Should be all right. Now we're building. All right. Now I just got to measure for the feet. And yeah, Bob's your uncle. She's coming together. All right, quick update. Splicing Sea-Doo harness. There's many joints where, say, for instance, the fuel harness, 2 wires come from the cluster, then 1 wire goes to this harness off the ECU, then the other wire goes back to the fuses. So all the different sections of harness like this and this, everything where they branch off and meet, you can cut all that off, because this way I only have to extend 2 wires all the way back to that corner. For instance, this whole harness, I only have to extend wires from here, right? These all wires are from the cluster that go back. They only reach back to about here. So I only have to extend wires from there over. All the rest are from the fuse box, and they're perfectly length. I just have to trim them a little bit. I wish I had have taken all this apart prior. I wouldn't have had to cut and splice any of these wires. So do yourself a favor. Before you really get into it, find out how far you're running. And I started with everything mounted up here with enough room to pull my cluster out for mounting it. My buttons up here are mounted. Everything's tied back and clean. And then under here, let's just go underneath. I don't have a light right now, but everything coming out, I tied it all together here. Then I strapped it to this bracket. I already had holes drilled in it so that I could sap strap harnesses to it. Comes straight out, and then your main harness to connect, and then I ran it back. I'm not running it underneath here yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tape it up to the side. There's a piece of tape right there. That's where the old joint was, where the fuel harness came down. I was just going to run it like, you know, start there and just sort of, I was going to run everything back. And I'm like, wait a minute, half the wires come from back here. So why not just take all that sheathing off and then figure out which ones I actually have to extend. So this way, I'm only extending, where am I? I'm only extending these right here. This little bundle. That's all I have to extend. And one for the fuel. Alright, so do yourself a favor, cut them up before you get into it. Oh, and this one for this guy. This one right here. This one is long enough, except for the fact that factory fucking Bombardier, they just, when they're making these harnesses, they just fucking run wires. They're not thinking about things that are in line being taken apart. So this is all tangled up. I am gonna have to cut and untangle all this and then put it back together. So that kind of sucks, but you know, that's not the end of the world, right? This looks a lot more complicated than it is. It is not hard to do. Label your wires, double check them. If there's multiples of the same color, then label them. Right? For the most part, they're all one-off wires, like black with a yellow stripe, or there's gray with a yellow stripe, gray with red, gray with a pink, gray with an orange. Like they're all pretty all on their own, other than some. There's some multiple purples, multiple blacks. That's about it. So don't be scared to do this. It's straightforward. And yeah, cheers. I'm gonna get into it. Okay, working on wiring. Final extension for the harness that goes to that part of the ECU. Everything is ran up front. I have tied up at the back or the front underneath, just to hold everything in place while I pull everything sort of semi-tight coming towards the back. Now working off of what comes from the fuse box tied in to this harness and then running down. These are all my extension wires from up front. Half of them right here, they were coming off of the fuse box, so I didn't have to extend them, I had to shorten them. That being said, for the ones that I extend, ones that you're shortening, you can just do one wire at a time. Like do all your purple with a blue stripe at a time. Do all your peach color with a pink stripe at a time. But for the ones you're extending, there's no point in trying to find all the same colors. I just ran red. But for every color that you pull from up there, write down what it is. It's a white wire with a gray stripe. This one is a yellow wire with a red stripe. This one is purple with a teal stripe. You get the idea. And all of these blacks, there's 4 blacks. I just labeled them black A, and then the next one black B, the next one black C, the next one black D. You get the idea. If you get too far ahead of yourself and you start cutting up another harness, well, you got one already undone, which you shouldn't do. Start labeling that one 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Keep your A, B's, and C's separate from your 1, 2, 3s. I'm almost done this one, and then I have to just work on the fuel. The fuel's right here. 2 of them I did not have to touch at all. 2 of them I did have to touch. So I've labeled those too. And then the OTIS. I think I mentioned before OTIS. I didn't know what it was. It's actually something else to do with steering. But you have to have it connected. You don't have to have it like where it's supposed to be. It's just connected to the harness. This one I do not have to extend or shorten. I'm just going to roll it up behind the battery, or I can bring it up under here and just plug in the harness. It can just dangle. Tied back but dangle. And then this guy, I didn't have to extend it, I just had to shorten it, and this guy goes right here, just like so. Get the idea. And everything will run through this fancy cable tray. It'll be tucked in back here like this, and then up along the cable tray, straight into this chute, and then plug here, plug there, and this fuel, wherever it is now, it's gonna run within this, and then once I get to here, I'm just gonna jog off to the fuel cell. Oh, that's it. Wiring should be done today. For this anyway, I still have to cut and splice for my start-stop switch. And then IBR stuff. IBR is ripped apart. It's a modification all on its own. So the way I want it to work is I have a momentary button that goes right there. And that's just a thumb button. When I press it, the reverse bucket drops. When I let go, the reverse bucket automatically comes up. And you get that action at full speed. Unlike the Sea-Doo does not do that at full speed. So for this, actually it is because this motor is out of a 2012, which has first gen IBR, which does not work for these boats. I think a few people have made it work, but not ideal. So this is second gen IBR. I don't know what year, make, or model it's from. I believe they're all practically the same, and I'm modifying the shit out of it. So we'll get to that. That'll be a whole nother episode. But I've got all the parts, waiting for some diodes that will allow that thing to work in the opposite direction, to retract. I'm learning about all this. I've messaged a couple of companies that deal with MotionWorks and actuators and circuit boards and all that shit, and they gave me a bunch of wiring diagrams to go by. So yeah, can't wait to get playing with that. All right, peace. All right, guys. So the wiring on the boat is done. Everything went really well. It's clean, and it could be a bit cleaner, but it's good enough for me for right now. I was dying to get this thing in the water, and yeah, without further ado, don't mind the milk crate. It's my storage box for right now, but yeah. So basically I just ratchet strapped it down to the stringer, and it does not move. So that is that. Fuel water separator. Cooling hoses all ran. Intercooler with blow-off valve with a supercharger spring. Note: blow-off valves come with a turbocharged spring, and the supercharger spring is like 2 or 3 psi spring, not the 11 or 9 to 20. Yeah. I do have to route my intake air cleaner up a little further because it's directly in line with the drip line. It'll get splashed on a little bit. But everything's pretty tight in here. I have a ball valve coming in from my intake so that if I'm being towed, you can't go over like, I don't know, ridiculously slow speed. So if I want to be towed at a decent speed, I can click the ball valve, shut off any water coming in the boat. That way my exhaust will not fill up with water. And wiring. Just a couple of small junction boxes, a positive, negative in there, and then a distribution block, whatever you want to call it. My relay for my IBR. And yeah, everything else is mounted. Battery's mounted. Battery switch. So I'll switch that on. On. Everything's lit up here. Wake up the everything works up here. My trim works. Down. Up. All the mode set buttons. I've got blower, bilge, nav lights. See them through there. We've gone over that. That's just an empty switch right now. You got voltage, and if you pull that out, there's a USB right there and right there. Finger throttle, fly-by-wire, super smooth, way better than the mechanical. And this little happy switch is my IBR reverse bucket. So if I press it, the reverse bucket drops. When I let go, comes back up. That's all the way down. It's so fast. Reverse down, hold it, it'll stay down as long as you want. Release it, it pops back up. And I'll show you what that looks like. I'm not gonna hit that. The cluster only stays on for a few seconds, but it shuts off if you don't hit that thing. So here is IBR dropping. Down, up, down, up. And that is that. Quick walk around. Fuel vent, bilge. The standoff for the walk-through windshield to rest on. These are the seats I picked up. They are freaking amazing. My Milwaukee cooler drops down right there. Perfectly out of the way. The step is just tall enough for the cooler to go in. And the rear seats, PRP forgot to diamond stitch the rears. So they wanted me to send, oh, and the bolster lines didn't really line up too well. But Jetstream and PRP have been amazing, and they're actually making me a new set of rears right now. They only wanted one set back. So that's them there. So this side was originally the worst side, but I sent that side back. Meanwhile, my fuel tank's there. I had a third passenger, so I put just through it here. Meanwhile, the bevel of this part is supposed to go here. So this seat actually belongs on the other side. But I just, whatever, threw it here. It'll be a spare. And yeah, that is that. And switch off. Hope you guys enjoyed this build series. I don't know if I build another boat, if I'll do another series. I might do just a couple things to, add. Another thing I wanted to mention before, but totally forgot. putting the sides on, like this panel, fitting it up past the flat section. Once it starts to curve up, I'll show you my trick. If I can find my one piece of aluminum angle that I used. There we go. Okay. So, I notched this piece of aluminum out. Forget about this chine guard being there. This is first stage of assembly. I would weld this piece on about an inch back, right? Just a, you know, inch long stitch. That's about it. Right there like that. And then, let me see if I can hold my camera with my knees here. And then with this pry bar, I welded a little tab, and then I actually notched it there, so that this 1/8 sidewall, like this guy, will rest right on that tab, inside that tiny little, see if I can, inside that tiny little slot. That's what I was pushing up on. So I would go like this, and I would grab it here, and I would pry up. Okay, you could pry up, and then what that does, it actually holds onto the bottom of this panel, and it actually, once you get to a certain height, it actually pushes it in too. So it will actually lift it up. You're prying it up and up and up, and then once you get to a certain point, it actually pushes it forward and in. It works as a great friggin' tool. I totally forgot to post that in the first or second video. But yeah, if you're watching all the videos, then you got that secret now. So that can all be done. I did that all with just myself, and it's not hard. You can get, like, you know, that thing's a foot and a bit long. I got like 4 good sized tacks in that foot, and then you take it off, put it on further down, and do it all over again. All right, that's it. Peace.